Alrighty, folks, welcome to my Major League Baseball free pick video here today for Friday, May 17th, 2024. Happy Friday to you. Weekend's finally here, and of course, my name is Brock Page. I've been dishing out free sports picks right here on YouTube since 2016, and of course, if you want to see which one of these free plays on this video that I actually like the best, you may want to think about signing up for my daily best play on my premium site. You'll get one of my best plays a day for 6 cents a day. Let's just dive into some free content. Pirates, Cubs, 2:20 Eastern first pitch. Pittsburgh, $1.20, total 7.5. Paul Skeens for the Pirates. Kyle Hendricks for the Cubs. And even though Hendricks has not been great, the Cubs have played their best baseball inside of Wrigley Field this year. They're 13-7 in Chicago, and they've certainly pounded the baseball in front of their own crowd. The Cubs are a top 5 run-producing lineup at home in the National League. Nico Horner leads the lineup in hits. Of course, you want to keep an eye on him. He's banged up a little bit, officially listed as questionable. Chris Morrell, he's got the most homers and runs batted in. And they're facing a Pittsburgh squad who lost 6 out of their last 9. And they do have a losing record against the NL Central. Of course, a big problem for the Pirates has been their bats. These guys strike out a lot at the dish, and they're a bottom 5 run-producing team. Now, injury-wise, Ke'Bryan Hayes is still out for Pittsburgh. Dansby Swanson's inactive for Chicago. 5 out of Chicago's last 7 divisional games did get over the total. Pittsburgh's gone 64% to the over against the NL Central this season themselves. Give me the Cubs plus $1 over 7.5. Next game, Nationals, Phillies, 6:40 p.m. East. Philadelphia's minus 275, total 7.5. Looks like Zach Wheeler for Philadelphia, Jake Irvin for Washington. And even though Irvin's thrown well this year, we're not going to take that away from him. He doesn't have a winning record to show for it. And of course, that's an organizational problem. The righty's recorded only 2 wins on the year and currently has a losing record. Of course, most of that is due to some really poor plate appearances by Washington. These guys average under 7.3 hits a game on the road. And, they unfortunately have the unfortunate task of facing Zach Wheeler here today, who's, got a 2.53 ERA, even after a rocky last start. Wheels is 4-3 on the year with a sub-1 whip and a whole lot of strikeouts. That's just going to show you how good of a year he's having, because his most recent start was a bit of a disaster. I believe it was, 6 runs he gave up? But anyway, even if Wheeler struggles again here today, this Phil's lineup, they always have a good shot at keeping them in it. They're leading the major leagues right now in run production per game. Alec Boehm's got the 3rd most RBI in the majors, 6th in batting average. Of course, Bryce Harper, he has double-digit home runs on the season himself. Injury-wise, Turner's still out for the Phillies. Gallo and Thomas inactive for the Nationals. 3 out of Washington's last 4 divisional road games did get over the total. Meanwhile, Philly saw all of their home games against the NL East this year get over the total themselves. Give me the Phillies minus 1.5 over 7. Next game, White Sox, Yankees, 7:05 East. New York's minus 260, totals 8. Nestor Cortez for New York. Mike Clevinger for Chicago. Now, Clevy's looked awful in a handful of innings. And out of 20 contests on the road this season, the White Sox took the loss in all of those matchups except for 2. I don't think that's right. They're not 2-18 on the road, but I think they're like 4-16. Little miscalculation here in my notes. Anyway, they do have the worst run-producing lineup in the bigs. Lopez and Benintendi are both hitting 200 on the dot. Andrew Vaughn just 205. And as bad as Nestor Cortez' record is, it ain't for a lack of creativity. The lefty Cortez has 51 strikeouts on the mound, along with a 1.05 whip. And simply put, you just can't score on these guys at Yankee Stadium. The Bombers allow fewer runs a game than any other staff in the league. Now, injury-wise, Danny Mendick's still out for the Sox. Brian Ramos is questionable. When it comes to the total, 7 out of Chicago's last 10 ball games did fall under the number. Meanwhile, the Yankees are 60% to the under for the entire season. Give me the Yankees -1.5, under 8. Next game, Mariners, Orioles, 7:05 East. Baltimore, $1.30, total 8. Cole Irvin for Baltimore, Bryce Miller for Seattle. And even though Miller's been outstanding, the M's just don't want to win for the guy. The righty does not have a winning record on the season right now. And, of course, the reason for that has been a lackluster lineup of hitters behind him. The Mariners are striking out more times a game than any other roster in baseball. And they got to face Cole Irvin on the mound here today for Baltimore. He's recorded only one loss this season and has an ERA in the 2s. And, of course, as a team, the O's have definitely hit the baseball very well. They're a top 5 run-producing lineup in the bigs. Gunnar Henderson's got the second most homers in the majors. Adley Rutschman has the most hits in the clubhouse as well. And out of the O's last 10 ball games, they got the W in all of those contests except for 3. Now, injury-wise, Santander and Hayes are questionable for the O's. Polanco and Garver day-to-day for Seattle. 3 out of the M's last 4 road games did get over the number. They also went 7-3 the over in their last 10 at any location. Give me Baltimore -$1.30, over 8. Next game, Rays, Blue Jays, 7:07 Eastern start time. Toronto's $1.85, totals 8.5. Chris Bassett for the Jays, Tyler Alexander for Tampa Bay. Now, the Rays won 6 out of their last 10, and they have hit Toronto pitching quite well. The Rays are averaging double-digit hits a game in their last 10 meetings with Toronto. So if you're into, historical trends, you certainly want to think about that one there. Of course, Isaac Paredes hits .305 this year and leads the lineup in RBI. Ahmed Rosario's batting .300 on the dot. And they're taking on a Toronto squad who lost 5 out of their last 8. And they've got a real loser on the mound in Chris Bassett. Man, that's rough. That's harsh. Who's writing this shit? The righty's 3-5 with an ERA in the 5s. Of course, who's writing this shit? It's me. It's a solo project. Oh, geez. What was I thinking? Anyway, even if the loser Bassett throws well here today, these Toronto batters can't hit for shit. Their bottom 3 run-producing lineup. And when it comes to the injury list, Justin Turner is questionable for Toronto. Brandon Lau still out for Tampa. 3 out of the Rays' last 4 road games did fall under the number. They're also 60% to the under in their last 10 at any location. Toronto's gone 12-6 to the under in their own building. Give me Tampa Bay +1.5, under 8.5 runs. Next game, Twins, Guardians, 7:10 Eastern start time. Cleveland's $1.20, totals 8.5. Tristan McKenzie for the Guardians, S.W. Richardson for Minnesota. And even though Richardson's looked good in a handful of outings, the Twins are on a 3-game losing streak, and they scored just 1 total run during that time frame. And I'll tell you what, that's not overly shocking. These guys do strike out an awful lot at the plate. And they're facing Tristan McKenzie here today, who does come into this contest with an ERA in the 3s. He is also backed by a solid lineup of run producers. Josh Naylor's got the second most homers in the bigs. 33 runs batted in as well. And speaking of ribbies, Jose Ramirez, he is the second most RBI in the majors. This has been an absolute RBI machine, this Ramirez guy. Now, at 18 contests at Progressive Field, the Guardians have won. They've got a win percentage of .667 in those games, giving those home fans a lot to cheer about. Now, injury-wise, something not to cheer about. Stephen Kwan, he's still out for Cleveland. Meanwhile, for Minnesota on the other side, Buxton and Lewis still inactive for them. That's a huge blow for them as well. 6 out of Minnesota's last 10 ball games did fall under the number. Meanwhile, Cleveland went 60% to the under in their last 10. Give me the Guardians -$1.20, under 8.5. Next game, little NL East action. Mets, Marlins, 7:10 Eastern start time. The Mets are -$1.20, total 7.5. Christian Scott for New York. Jesus Luzardo for Miami. Now, Luzardo's winless on the season through 31-plus innings. He's 0-3 with an ERA just about in the 6s. And even if he does perform miracles here today, Jesus is backed by a Miami lineup who can't get base runners. They're dead last in walks per 9 at the plate. And, of course, because of that, no base runners, no runs. They're a bottom 3 run-scoring team in the National League. They're going to face Christian Scott here today, who's looks solid in a limited role. The Reddy's got an ERA in the 2s, excellent command of his fastball, and for some reason, this Mets lineup can really only hit the baseball on the road. It's very bizarre. But this is the best run-scoring team on the road in the major leagues right now. Starling Marte's got the most hits in the lineup. Pete Alonso's got double-digit home runs. Now, injury-wise, Brandon Nimmo's questionable for the Mets. Keep an eye on him. Tim Anderson's still out for Miami on the other side. The Marlins saw 7 out of their last 10 get over the total. They're also 17-6 of the over in South Florida. And no real surprise here. The Mets saw the over cash in 68% of their road games. Give me the Mets minus $1.20, over 7.5. Next game, Padres, Braves, 7:20 Eastern first pitch. Atlanta's minus 220, totals 8.5. Max Fried for the Braves, Matt Waldron for San Diego. And while he's just 1-5 on the year with an ERA of 5.49, of course, as a team, the Padres lost their last 3 straight, which was actually a 3-game sweep to the lowly Rockies. And I tell you, they better strap it up here today because they're facing an Atlanta squad who does not lose much at home. The Braves are currently winning 75% of their games at Truist Park this year. No real surprise, they're averaging more hits a game at home than any other roster besides one. Marcell Ozuna leads the league in RBI, OPS in the thousands. Ronald Acuna, he has the most walks and stolen bases in the clubhouse himself. And even if the bats do go cold here for some reason for the Braves today, they should be in good hands with Max Fried on the mound. The lefties recorded only 1 loss through 45-plus innings of work this year. Fried's also got himself an ERA in the 3s along with a 1.04 whip. Now, injury-wise, Austin Riley's questionable for Atlanta. Keep an eye on him. When it comes to the total, 6 out of the Braves' last 10 gatherings with the Padres did get over the total. So if you're into historical trends, plenty of overs to go around. Now, San Diego's last 3 straight all got over the total themselves. Give me the Braves minus 1.5, over 8.5. Next game, A's, Royals, 7:40 Eastern first pitch. Kansas City's minus $1.55, totals off the board. Cole Reagans for Kansas City, Kyle Muller possible for Oakland. Now, the A's are definitely back to their old selves. Losers of their last 5 straight. Just 2-8 straight up in their last 10. And of course, at the plate, the A's, they just don't get anybody on the base pass. They're averaging a league worst 6.6 hits a game on the road. And they're going to face Cole Reagans here today, who's got a bunch of strikeouts on the year. The lefties fanned 57 batters in just 49 innings. He's also backed by a solid lineup of batters. KC's a top 5 run-producing lineup at home. They're also striking out fewer times a game at home than any other roster in baseball. Salvi Perez is in the top 10 in batting average, RBI, and OPS. Of course, Bobby Witt Jr. leads the lineup in hits. Give me KC minus $1.55. Next game, Angels, Rangers, 8:05 Eastern first pitch. Texas is $1.65, totals 9. Andrew Heaney for the Rangers, Tyler Anderson for Los Angeles. And I'll tell you what, don't let Anderson's record fool you. This guy has been throwing some pretty filthy stuff this year. He's got an ERA in the 2s along with a 1.14 whip. Now, the Angels also have been a decent run line covering team. They covered in 6 out of their last 10. They're also 8-5 against the number in their road games against the American League. And they're facing a Ranger club who's got a losing record against the number this year themselves. And out of Texas's last 6 ball games, they took the loss in all of those contests except for one. Now, on the mound, the Rangers have got themselves the former Angel, Andrew Heaney, on the bump. And for some reason, they don't want to win for Heaney. You know, despite a really good whip, the lefty's 0-4 on the year for the Rangers with an ERA in the 4s. Now, injury-wise, Evan Carter's questionable with a back injury. Keep an eye on him. Meanwhile, for the Dodgers, Sano and Drury still inactive for them. But regardless of those injuries, give me the Angels plus 1.5, keeping that one close, under 9. Next contest, Brewers, Astros, 8:10 Eastern start time. Houston's a $1.20, total 8.5. Hunter Brown for Houston, Freddie Peralta for Milwaukee. Now, Fast Freddie is really giving these guys opportunities to win this year. He looks great. The righties recorded just one loss in 44-plus innings. He's also got 58 strikeouts and a 1.05 whip. Now, as a team, the Brewers did get the W in 6 out of their last 9, and they've been pretty dominant at the dish. They're currently a top 3 run-producing team. William Contreras, he has the second highest batting average in the majors, 5th in RBI and OPS as well. Of course, Christian Yelich is hitting .359 with an OPS in the thousands as well. And these Milwaukee Sluggers, they could end up feasting on Hunter Brown here today. The Houston righty is 0-4 with an ERA of 7.79 and a whip in the 2s. And out of 11 interleague contests this season, 11 interleague contests, the Astros took the loss in all but 3 of those games. And oddly enough, the under did cash in all 11 of those interleague games I just mentioned. Houston also saw 3 out of their last 4 at Minute Maid Park stay under the line. Give me the Brewers plus $1 under 8.5. Next game, Red Sox, Cardinals, 8:15 East. Boston's a $1.15, totals 8 runs. Brian Bayo for Boston, Kyle Gibson for St. Louis. And I'll tell you, as solid as Gibby's been, he's got only 2 wins on the season to show for it. The Cards are just 6-11 at home this year, and they've certainly had a tough time hitting the baseball at Busch Stadium. This Redbirds lineup averages fewer hits a game at home than any other lineup besides one. Nolan Gorman's batting just .191. Paul Goldschmidt only .206. They're facing Brian Bayo on the bump for Boston, and he's been real good. The righties for him on with an ERA in the low 3s. Bayo's also got himself a stingy 1.07 whip. And of course, this Boston pitching staff has certainly pitched their best while traveling this year. They're allowing fewer runs a game on the road than any other staff in the majors. Now, injury-wise, Yoshida and Heineman are out for Boston. Contreras inactive for St. Louis. He is their best hitter. 8 out of Boston's last 10 ball games did fall under the line. They're also 13-8 to the under as the official road team. Give me the Bo Sox minus $1.15, under 8. Next contest, Tigers, Diamondbacks, 9:40 Eastern first pitch. Detroit's a $1.40, totals 8. Tark Skubal for the Tigers, Ryan Nelson for Arizona. Now, the D-backs did see overs in 2 out of their last 4 home games. Detroit saw 3 out of their last 4 on the road get over the line themselves. The over also cashed in 6 out of their last 10. Give me the over 8 runs. Next ball game, Reds, Dodgers, 10:10 Eastern start time. The Dodgers are $2.25, totals 8.5. James Paxton for Los Angeles, Frankie Montas for Cincinnati. Montas is just 2-3 on the season with an ERA in the 4s. And of course, as a team, this Cincy lineup has really stunk up the joint. They're currently the worst hitting lineup in the National League. And they're going to have to face James Paxton on the hill for the Dodgers. And I'll tell you, he's yet to record a loss. The lefty's 5-0 with an ERA in the 2s. And even if he does struggle here today, this Dodger lineup dominates at home. They're averaging a league-best 5.6 runs a game on their own diamond. Shohei Ohtani has the highest batting average and OPS average in the major leagues. Teoscar Hernandez has the 3rd most RBI in the bigs as well. And out of the Dodgers' last 10 gatherings with Cincinnati, they've averaged nearly 6 runs a game during that time frame. Now, injury-wise, Hayward's still out for the Dodgers. Johnny India is questionable for the Reds. 4 out of Cincy's last 7 road games did fall under the line. They're also 7-3 to the under in their last 10 at any location. Give me the Dodgers minus 1.5, under 9. With that, folks, we're going to dive into our next and final breakdown for the video. It's going to be in that Rockies-Giants game. That'll be a 10:15 Eastern first pitch. San Francisco's a $1.65, total 7.5. Kyle Harrison for the Giants, Ryan Feltner for the Rockies. And Felty's been getting consistently felted game in and game out. He's got just one win on the season through 45 innings of work. Now, Feltner's also got himself a sloppy ERA in the fives. And even if he does throw well here today, he's probably not going to get much run support. Colorado's a bottom five run producing lineup on the road. And they're facing Kyle Harrison here today, who's really given the Giants some strong innings. Out of 50 innings of work this year, the lefties recorded only one loss, and he struck out 45 batters. Now, Harrison also has himself an ERA of 3.42. Now, injury-wise, Ahmed, Soler, Slater, and Lee are still out for San Francisco. Bryan and Jones inactive for Colorado. You'll also want to keep an eye on Elias Diaz. He's questionable with a hand injury for Colorado. Now, total-wise, the Giants are 60% to the under in their divisional home games this year. They also went 15-7 to the under in all of their contests on their own field. Give me San Francisco minus 165, under 7.5. With that, folks, we're going to dive into our quick pick recap. I like the Cubs plus $1 over 7.5. Phillies minus 1.5 over 7. Yankees minus 1.5 under 8. Orioles minus $1.30 over 8 runs. Rays plus 1.5 under 8.5 runs. Cleveland minus $1.20 under 8.5. Mets minus $1.20 over 7.5. Atlanta minus 1.5 over 8.5. Royals minus $1.55, getting the job done for some money line cash. Angels plus 1.5 under 9. Milwaukee plus $1 under 8.5. Red Sox minus $1.15 under 8. Maybe the over 8 runs in the Tigers Diamondbacks game. Dodgers minus 1.5 under 9. Give me the Giants minus 165 under 7.5. And with that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my premium site. You remember what I said about the daily best play, so I don't need to go any farther. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on the free video. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. Well, that's it, folks. Happy Friday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium site at patreon.com/BrockPage.